सोनाली खान जी, मैं आपसे एक सवाल ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कि अभी हमने थोड़ी देर पहले देखा यहाँ पर बच्चों को हाइजीन ओलंपियाड के लिए सम्मानित किया गया। ये जो बिहेवियरल नजेस हैं कि थोड़ा सा प्रोत्साहन करना, थोड़ा सा बताना, ये कितना ज़रूरी हो जाता है?
एक चीज जो हमें याद रखना पड़ेगा कि बच्चों के साथ थोड़ा सा नज चाहिए। इफ यू रिमेम्बर कि बच्चों को अगर आपको भी बोला जाए कि खेलते हुए बच्चा घर आता है, उसको माँ याद दिलाती है या कोई भी बुजुर्ग घर में, हाथ धो लो बच्चा, सो देन ही विल गो एंड वॉश और शी विल गो एंड वॉश हर हैंड्स। अदरवाइज क्या होता है, वो झट से कुछ एक केला पकड़ लिया, बिस्किट ले लिया एंड दे आर वेरी बिजी ईटिंग इट। सो बच्चों के लिए थोड़ा सा रिपीट मेमोरी, मतलब बार बार उनको याद दिलाना, टेलिंग देम अबाउट that they need to do this good practice to build a habit becomes very important. जैसे अगर आपको कहीं टाइम से पहुंचना है और अगर आप हमेशा लेट जाते हैं, तो then it's a habit that you have developed. So how do you start becoming a punctual person? It's similarly, how do you always remember to wash your hands is something that we develop through reminders, through repeated practice. अगर खुद नहीं जल्दी से सीख पाते हैं तो याद तो दिलाना पड़ेगा. So that is very essential in habit development in anybody, not just children.
Sonali, if I could ask you, what according to you think really works when we talk about behavior nudges or when to give across an important message? What works?
I just want to comment on the factor of fear. I've been listening to the panel for a while. If fear was such a great impact, I think we would be such an amazing society. But it's not true. I think as soon as you remove the fear, there's a whole slip back, right? So if you remember, you won't smoke before your father, but when your dad is not there, quickly you'll pull out your cigarette. So it's just the way human mind works in a very complex way. When we are working with children, I don't think fear is necessarily the best mechanism to build habits in children. I mean, there may be contrarian views, and there was this famous adage that spare the rod and spoil the boy. But I think fear creates its own challenges that are huge. It can create a toxic environment. Actually, toxic masculinity is a huge byproduct of fear and a lot of pressure being put on boys and girls. We really need to understand that the more enabling the environment is, the more conducive it is, the child is able to grow. I think Mr. Bachchan just pointed out that, you know, when we are talking about early years, the first 5 years in a child's life, it's when, as brain science shows, that the brain is developing the fastest. Yeah, child can learn multiple languages, multiple behaviors, is imitating. Every year in a child's growth is a milestone. Can you imagine a child who was crawling is able to stand and walk, which all of us as adults take for granted. We don't even remember crossing that milestone ourselves. But it's such critical. A 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4, every year the child makes a quantum jump in what that child is learning. If we are able to put in the right sort of ingredients, including behaviors, I think we will have a better generation. Saying that, I think the other comment on nudges, I think this is a fancy word. We love our buzzwords, right? So we pick up behavior change, behavioral sciences, nudges. These are all buzzwords that we see around us. But I think it's very critical for us to take a step back and ask ourselves this question. And when I was listening, a very funny story came to my mind, despite us being a little bit cynical about storytelling. But this was something, you know, a friend said that if you see someone wearing a mask in an international airport, COVID, no COVID, it's most likely going to be a Japanese. Ask yourself this question, why? I think there are lots of viral videos on why Japanese do what they do, but this is a really interesting story. Because for them, they respect everybody else. Like this whole thing on coughing, that if you're not well or you're a little like you've got a cold, they wear a mask. They don't need COVID as a reminder. So I think this is the question we need to ask ourselves. How much respect do I have for the other? Yeah. So if you're talking about behavioral nudges, I think there has to be deeper understanding of our own culture. We are a culture that talks about respect extensively. There are a lot of ingredients within our own culture that pushes us towards certain kind of behavioral patterns. I think we need to draw on those. We need to pull from those and then talk about these things, because we are a community that likes to clean our house but put the dirt outside. So I think these are where I think certain critical questions for us are, that how as a community, how as a culture can we draw those nudges that encourage us to really sort of adopt clean practices for ourselves, but raise children in a particular way that is not sort of based on fears or based on expectations that are, pushed from somewhere else, but a deeper understanding. And the child is capable of understanding if we don't dictate terms to them. And I just want to sort of reflect on that. Children are reasoning all the time. So if you just tell them, don't do something, they are not likely to listen to you.
And like Mr. Bachchan said, Sonali, that it's best to tell them the facts. I think just going back to them rather than going around and telling them the facts is the best thing.